Mayor Jones.
Present.
Trustee McGreer.
Here.
Trustee Morris.
Here.
Trustee Brown Marino. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please take a moment of silence.
Radios too.
The next item on the agenda is swearing-in ceremony for 3 firefighters. James Zanginko.
Oh yeah.
Robert Littell. And Thomas Richards.
I just want to first start by saying this is a very important night for the Broadview Fire Department and for the village of Broadview. For those of you who don't know, this is the first time that we're actually adding numbers back into our department since the layoffs in '06. So for me, this is a very proud moment, very happy moment for the department as well as the village. On that note, you three would please raise your right hands and repeat after me.
Okay.
I state your name.
I, Robert Zanginko,
Having been appointed to the office of fireman
have been appointed to the office of fireman
in the fire department of the village of Broadview,
in the fire department of the village of Broadview,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
in the state of Illinois,
state of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
the Constitution of the state of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of fireman
of the office of fireman
according to the best of my abilities.
according to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jim's father is a retired police lieutenant in Bedford Park.
Fantastic.
I did it!
He loves yours.
What else?
Tom's dad is with the Chicago Fire Department.
All right. That's all right.
I'd like to thank Mayor Jones and the village board for all their support, for helping making all this happen tonight. So appreciate it, and thanks again.
Thank you, Chief.
item on the agenda is public comment.
Princess Dempsey is the first name.
First of all, I'd like to congratulate the fire department for that addition. You said about a FOIA as a park district. I applied for a FOIA on May 9th, and from the village, still have not gotten my FOIA request that I requested, and that's since October. Now we have Attorney General involved because I have not gotten that one FOIA from the village. Secondly, you talked about a vendor. A vendor that was making $30 is what you spoke on at the park district, and for $16 an hour. But what I didn't hear you speak about is your vendor who made $7,000 in 1 month, and there was no emergency. I didn't hear you talk about MFA Construction, which is located in Hillside, who you appointed making $95,000, which anything over $20,000 is supposed to be bid on. I never heard you talk about that vendor. But yet still, you come to the park district talking about a vendor making $16. You also said in your comment that any vendor that puts someone there should have their own equipment to use that. I have an invoice that MFA Construction has got paid from the park district, $2,500. So my question is, what equipment is MFA Construction using? It's not their own. They're using village equipment. Second, you talked about pretty much about Gino's plumbing. Like I said, he made $75,000 and there was no emergency. I didn't see it on the invoice. You also talked about, and I still haven't seen the agenda, you talked about agendas being so far out. But there was an agenda about the election. I have not seen the election by Nicole Benson. There was an agenda out there. I still have not seen that. I looked on the website. I haven't seen the agenda. I requested that agenda. Also, now I want to address one of the trustees. You spoke about over in your area where you live, the park district, people are hanging out, which you said, Trustee Gwendolyn, and people are hanging out, there's bottles and everything over there on 13th and Roosevelt. However, what you don't know, that's not Broadview's park district. That's the borderline of Maywood, just like Roosevelt School. That's District 89. That's not their park. Secondly, you also spoke about the police department. I love my police department. What I didn't like to see is on September 19th, when the police was sitting in a meeting that was called, and the officer was sitting there when he could have been patrolling the area. I'm not trying to get like Forrest Heights, where basically the National Guards have to come in and police because of the corruption of the vice president or the trustee. You also said that Judy Brown Rio, please check the legal bills for me, because there's going to be a lot coming this way going legal. Check those bills. The village president, the trustees, the clerk, like you said, you work for us. Is that what you said? You said that at the park. You work for us too. At the bottom line is that you still is telling everybody that you open, you're transparent. I don't see any transparency, but on your agenda it says something called executive session. In executive session, that's when you do your vote. Just like we do at the school in executive session, that's when decisions are made. When somebody else has their executive session, you speak against it. I'm coming tonight because you spoke against a lot of things and you're not even doing the same thing. So if you're going to be transparent, the feds give out indictments during Christmas. Just want to let you know that. If you're going to be transparent. But don't go a brick house or a brick in a glass house and you haven't done the same thing.
Thank you, Ms. Dempsey. Ms. Redmond?
Good evening, Shirley Redmond, 2246 24th Avenue. First of all, Mr. Mayor, trustees, residents, and administrators, congratulations to the fire department, and also, for the work of Chief Tegera and all the work of trying to get people to get our numbers back up. I'm proud of that, and I hope we continue to do that. I haven't been able to come to a meeting or so because of my job, but I do have a question about item 7A regarding Beckley LLC. I did go to the zoning board meeting when that came about, and I looked online looking for the video about the last board meeting because I knew it was on your agenda. I would like, before you all vote on anything tonight, if you don't mind, could you give a summary of what's being proposed for them? Because that is the checkers, if I'm not mistaken. The last time I was at the zoning board meeting, I thought I heard that they wanted to have a, for lack of a better use, because that's what they said, pork chop put in on one side, and they were going to use that municipal lot there between the Dollar and there where their proposed spot, and I wasn't sure whether you were going to lease it or whether they were going to buy it, and then there was going to be something done to the alley. So I'd like to know what's happening. And also, I know it's hard to kind of upload stuff, but I'm one of the residents, I would like to know what's going on. And when I can't make it, I do go and check. So I'd appreciate it that if we can get uploaded the video of that. And I do want to say, and I want to give you your kudos, you did put the agenda there. I appreciate that. Okay, so if we can continue to get the information out, I would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Redmond. And Ms. Doreen Gordon.
Well, I just want to say, based on the last meeting that we had, that I think it's important for all of us residents to pay attention to what's going on. And if they have questions about issues that are taking place here or things that they feel aren't being stated, they need to talk to those of us who do come here. I think we all know each other. We all are here quite a bit. We're regulars, take it for what it is. But we do try to pay attention, and I think that it's important. I know when I get done with the meeting here, I make phone calls to my friends and neighbors and talk to them on the street to let them know what's happening in the village, because not everybody can come to every meeting. Not everybody can be here all the time. But it's our responsibility as residents to make the effort to find out about what's going on. Yes, you have a responsibility to post that information and to let us know it, but I think more of the responsibility falls on the residents themselves, because if you don't take that initiative to do something, to pay attention to what's going on, then you are subject to whatever happens. That's right. You know, you're the ones who are making the decision to not pay attention. And if you're not paying attention and you're not doing your job, then you're going to get the results that are out there. I want to compliment our board because I think that you guys are doing a good job. Me too. I've had my issues with some of you, but I have seen over the years that you're trying to do the right thing by this village. You don't have personal agendas. And there's somebody who might have, but I'm not going to mention their name. But those of you who don't have a personal agenda, who don't have a thing that they want to do just to do it for their own personal self-aggrandizement, you're doing what is best for our community. Now, in this day and age, this is not the best economic situation for our country as a whole. It is not the best social situation for our country as a whole. But overall, our community is doing well. In a terrible situation, we are doing well. We're trying to do the best that we can. And I think bringing new businesses to town has been a positive thing. We have to make some adjustments, but we also have to do things that some of us might disagree with. But when you look at the larger picture, you see the benefits of it. I've lived here since 1949. Granted, I was a child then, but I paid attention. Our family has a history of paying attention to what goes on in this village, even though we don't always attend all the meetings or can't always attend them, but we try to pay attention, and we talk to our representatives that we have elected. We're the people here who are electing you, and so you're beholden to us, but then we are also beholden to you, too. And I think that's something that everybody here needs to pay attention to.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Gordon. Mr. Clerk?
Wait a minute. I think my paper must have got lost in the shop.
There ain't no paper up there for you.
He did. That paper there.
Darnie, you get a paper.
All right.
Carry on, Ms. Yan.
Thank you. My name is Julie
in the hall.
and I want to stand here and tell the board that I appreciate the things that you all are doing for our village. I think you're doing a great job. Our fire department and our police department, I'm extremely proud of. And I am with them because because they offer us. And I see the work that they do, and I just want to let them know that I appreciate it. I also appreciate each member on that board that's doing something for this village. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
Item number 3, consideration to approve the minutes, October 7th, 2015.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, the motion has been made properly by trustee McGrath, properly seconded by trustee Abraham. Questions or comments on the minutes? Has everyone reviewed the minutes? Yes. Has anyone not reviewed the minutes? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve the minutes. Any corrections from the members of the board, starting with trustee Brown Marino?
Yes. Normally, I would have emailed Clerk Walters about this, but he asked for corrections by Friday, and I wasn't able to do it by then. I was hoping that somebody else might have caught some of these, but I don't see any of these corrections on here now. First of all, under the payment of the bills, it has me voting no. I did not vote no. I voted yes on paying the bills. Under old business, the first item pertaining to AM audit, in the minutes we have for discussion that trustee Benson requested additional time to review the ordinance. It should also include my discussion about us having already approved an agreement or authorized the board authorized an agreement with another company. Then under new business, for the first item about the bonds, this was pertaining to hiring Mr. Fernaro. You showed and the vote count, you show trustee Benson as abstaining, but she was actually absent, not an abstention. The next one is the communities of distinction. Looking for the letter on that. That's I. I had voted no. You've got me down as voting yes and voting no. The next one is on letter O. Actually, trustee McGreer had first made a motion to approve. There was no second, and then there was the motion to table. Under the license approval for, let's see. What was the license approval? That was under new business, letter B. The discussion should include the presentation by Joe Reyna, the landlord, and his request that we amend our code to allow for some sort of provision for a provisional business license until it has a chance to come before the board, especially because that's on tonight's agenda. And then finally, this has been an issue every time the deputy clerk does our minutes because we have a different form of government than the Village of Maywood. In the Village of Maywood, the mayor can vote. In our system of government, he doesn't. And once again, we have notes that Mayor Jones voted on the suspension for the firefighters swearing in, payment of the bills, the minutes, and for adjournment. And that should not be on there. So, and now I'd like to make a superseding motion to table this so that next time we would be able to have the minutes with the corrections and actually approve the minutes as they would be. Okay, it was a try. That's all.
Okay. Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGreer? No. Trustee...
That's all they gotta do. Fix it. So that's it. So why we gonna bring that back up?
I'm sorry.
And trustee Abraham? No. Okay. Trustee Benson just reiterated the fact that she was absent for a couple of the motions. I would entertain a revised motion to make the necessary corrections and approve the minutes with those corrections identified by trustee Brown Marino.
So moved.
Okay, motion by McGrill, second by Abraham. Mr. Clerk, would you make the necessary corrections and resend the minutes out to everyone and post them properly with the corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries to pass the minutes with the proper corrections. Mr. Clerk?
Consideration to approve expenditures, grand total funds of $339,853.29.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been properly motioned by trustee Abraham, probably second by trustee McGrill to approve this month's expenditures. Report from finance?
Yes, vendors, we have B&F Construction Code Service at $11,191.25. The Broadview police pension was $3,726.74. The Broadview Public Library, $8,749.11. Broadview True Value Hardware, $3,600. Commonwealth Edison, $8,717 and a penny. Group Industries, $52,430.99. Ford Credit Department, $10,269.70. Geno's Heating and Plumbing, $13,060. J. Narduli Concrete, $27,830.86. Bank of New York Mellon, $50,000. Ozinga Ready Mixed Concrete, $6,239. Pangea Equity Partners Limited, $100,000. Runyon Equipment Company, $5,788.21. Steve Spiller, $2,500. West Cook County Solid Waste Agency, $7,818.83. The subtotal of all our vendors over $2,500 is $311,921.70 for total expenditures of $339,853.29 for a 92% total.
Thank you, trustee Abraham. Corrections, questions, and comments from the members of the board, starting with trustee Marino.
I have none.
None. Thank you, trustee Marino. Trustee Moore?
No.
Trustee McGrill?
None.
Trustee Turner?
No question.
Trustee Benson? And trustee Abraham?
None.
Okay, since this involves the payment of fees, we need a roll call on this from Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Benson.
Yes.
Trustee Turner.
Yes.
Trustee McGrier.
Yes.
Trustee Morris.
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino.
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously to approve the expenditures for this pay cycle.
Next item, number 5, reports from village officers, building department, Commissioner David Upshaw.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of September, there were 77 permits issued that covered residential, industrial, commercial. There were 40 Title 13 inspections done. 6 were done on apartments, the rest were done on residential or industrial properties. What we're finding out now is that a lot of people, or a lot of buyers or investors or mortgage companies are starting to flip the properties that they bought and bought. So they bought them low, and they're selling them. Right now, the average price, home price in Broadview is $125,000. Therefore, so it's starting to increase and improve. 28 contractor registrations. We had 1 plan review. We had 6 complaints dealing with trees on electrical lines as well as roads. And for the month, we collected over $20,000 in revenue. I wanted just to cover a couple things, just to give everybody a quick update as to what's going on, some of the things in water. We have, as of today, we have 10 new companies in the village of Broadview that's been since the new fiscal year, May 1st, 2013. We're making great strides on Broadview, Westchester Pumping Station, located on 10th and Roosevelt. If you have a chance, please stop by there. They tie back the roof, pretty much they're working on the roof in the next couple of weeks, and they'll be able to work inside. I anticipate that it's probably going to be officially open, hopefully in the spring at the latest. We have several companies who are doing renovations or additions to their property, which is good, because that means they're staying in Broadview. Wilbur Funeral Home, Agarda, McDonald's, Parker Hampton, which is right here on 25th, and Thunder Tool, which is Rival Unlimited, which is behind the Chase in the O'Reilly's on 18th. Those companies are currently doing renovations and expanding their businesses in the village of Broadview. They also have come to me and asked about possibly hiring Broadview residents. So I'll keep you informed and updated regarding those possible hiring opportunities as well. Mr. Mayor, board that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Upshaw. Questions or comments for Commissioner Upshaw? Trustee Marino?
None.
Trustee Moore? No. Trustee McGuinn?
Yeah, a couple of comments. I don't know if any foods upgrades and expansions is old business, but I know they were doing some as well. I thought you were going to mention that in that group. And also, I just want to mention that your department is doing an excellent job as far as tracking and keeping an eye out on those vendors and contractors that are doing business in Broadview, whether it's with or without a permit. And if you find that they are not doing it without a permit, I see quite a bit, they're up here making sure that they comply with our ordinance. So I want to thank you for keeping an eye on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Marino. Trustee Thompson?
No comment.
Trustee Johnson? Trustee Abraham?
I have a question. What do you have an update on, who's it,
NPC is also a new business in Broadview located on Garden Road. They've been working on their addition for about a year. It's a couple $100,000 addition. They should be finished this summer. But they pretty much, I don't know, maybe 10,000, 15,000 square feet addition on two existing buildings. They originally were located in Maywood. They transferred to Broadview. They create commercial caulk. It's not the caulk that you get in Home Depot, it's commercial caulk. It's only used for commercial instances. And they're a highly successful company, and they're going to be hiring too as well. Thank you.
They've already started hiring. They've already hired a couple of people from the village of Broadview as we speak. And I do believe that the addition is going to make that building almost 200,000 square feet. Yeah, it's going to be a huge building. Thank you, Mr. Upshaw.
Next item, Finance Department, Deanne Baptist.
Mayor Jones, village trustees, and village residents, finance, good evening. A financial overview for our general operations for the month of September. In the month of September, the general fund generated $659,000 in revenues, but expended $878,000 in expenses. So for the month, we had a net deficit spending of $219,000. However, on a year-to-date basis, we are still operating at a net surplus of about $379,000. When you look at our revenues, just in summary, the primary revenues are coming from our governmental revenues. We collected $75,000 in property taxes, $265,000 in sales taxes, $107,000 in utility taxes, $70,000 in state income taxes, and $12,000 in state use taxes. On a local basis, our departments collected the following. The building department collected $29,000 in permit and inspection fees. Police department collected $61,000 in fines, towing, and forfeiture activities. And the fire department collected $24,000 in ambulance and hospital billing fees. Also, the Public Works had 1,000 in miscellaneous fees. Also, in September, we received the first reimbursement from the DEAC grant, which authorizes one of our policemen was on a special task force for auto theft, and they reimbursed us for his salary. So we received that first reimbursement, and FYI, we received the next 3 months because they've been way behind. We received those on Friday, so they'll be in next month. So they're starting to come in. And we also lastly received about 4,000 in insurance and miscellaneous reimbursements. On the expense side, labor and benefits usually take up the bulk of the spending. This month it only makes up about 59%, because larger spending is happening in the contractual services. Of that, we had 77,000 in legal and professional service invoices. It also includes the one-time fee of 39,000 for the audit, the annual audit fees. We had 142,000 in general liability insurance expenses. And for those of you all who look at it on a monthly basis, this is about 100,000 more than our normal monthly. And what that included for the trustees who looked at the invoices was we operate on a minimum maximum fee structure with IML, where we pay the minimum premium, but if our claim history gets to a higher level than expected, then we have to pay up so much up to a maximum that still is lower than the overall premium if we went flat. And in this case, that 100,000 is 3 years worth of adjustments. As you all know, we've had quite a few officers out on PETA, for which and we've had quite a few traffic light damages and stop sign damage. So our claim history is pretty high. So we basically had to pay about $100,000 additional. So that's a one-time cost that hit this month. We had 11,000 in various repair and maintenance expenses. We paid our annual conference fees, or our fees for the annual West Central Municipal Conference that dues flows. We paid about 7,000 in towing expenses, 6,000 for our quarterly newsletter, and 5,000 in fire employment testing, which helped us complete the process so we can bring those 3 firefighters that you saw in today. On a year-to-date basis, September represents 5 months of fiscal year activity, or about 42%. And if you look at our revenue, both our revenues and our expenses are trending slightly below that at this time. But compared to last year, September, revenues are higher by 97,000, but our expenses are also much higher by 641,000 versus last year's time. Looking on a year-to-year basis, our property taxes, we received the 89% of the 2012, so technically we were sort of on board with that. As collections come in, of course, we always, by the end of when it's all said and done, we always collect about 97%. So they come in slow, but they do come. The other taxes, sales taxes, are trending right in line with the budget. But they actually are higher than last year, so that gives us that actually is supporting our notion that the economy, although slow, is coming back. Things are increasing. However, our utility taxes are actually running below both budget and below prior years. So doing a little analysis, trying to figure out what's happening with that. I'll get back to y'all. On the intergovernmental level, state taxes, state income taxes, and corporate taxes are running ahead of budget and significantly higher than last year's. Plus this year in revenues, we are benefiting from starting to get the reimbursements and the grants. We received payments for a COPS grant, which is funding 1 police officer, and now the NEAC grant, which is also supporting the 2nd police officers. So we incurred expense with them, and we are getting their salary portion back. The government, the village is absorbing their benefits, but we are getting their salary portions back. That helps us. Lastly, on a year-to-date, when you're looking at the local on a year-to-date basis, all the departments are running slightly behind the budget, but they're running a lot higher than last year. So
I know we pushed out at any time, so keep working. I want to see those numbers make it by the end of the year, gentlemen. I'm looking straight at y'all, y'all know. Okay, looking at expenses, as I said, they're running significantly higher than last year. And in the certain departments, it makes perfect sense. One of them in the executive department is due to higher legal fees. In the fire department, actually, part of it is last year, compared to last year, our property tax distribution as it relates to the pension contributions is a lot lower. But last year we had to do ambulance that's offsetting it, and this year the fire of that 100,000 fire was allocated 42,000 of that one-time $100,000 expense. The police department was actually allocated 58,000 because there is where most of our workers' comp activity is happening. In the police department, part of their unfavorable is also determined. As of this time last year, we hadn't did any of the hiring, but as the year goes on, you'll see it sort of even out because we brought on quite a few kids in the second half of the year in the police department. And the variance in public works is actually for the one-time streets, alley/street reconstruction, of which we've been reimbursed for a part of. So that's basically what's happening in the general fund through September. On a more general note, as it relates to the finances, the state requires that villages or municipalities, actually all taxing bodies, so it also includes school district, library district, to publish our annual treasury report that lists all our payments to employees and to vendors. It was a plan to actually publish, and actually the paper has it. And you board members have what it is and all this documentation behind it. I have prolonged publication for 1 week to the 31st. You might ask why. It's because our auditors, they sent me the draft report and everything was kosher, but now they're at the partner peer review level, and their internal controls of that is they're sort of doing a second mini audit. They're asking a whole lot more questions, and there might be some changes. So I actually have put it off for the week until I get the final numbers after the partners have changed it. Now, if they do change it, I should tell you, the Mayor Jones, I've been keeping abreast as each one of the issues come up. But if any change, all the changes that they are anticipating actually will make fiscal year 13 look even better. Because basically what they're looking at doing is pulling some of the one of the more large ones. May I go into this?
Carry on.
Too much detail?
You might as well tell them, they're going to find out anyway, so go on and tell them the rest of the story.
The village's development agreement to sell their easement as it relates to that sign. I only recognize 200,000 of the 600,000 because we had received 100,000 in that year, and at least another 100,000 was actually due before April, even though we didn't get it to May. And that was my interpretation of what accrued revenue should be. The partners are now questioning the fact that even though payments are not due until 2014, the commitment is there, and hence they're discussing whether or not we should pour the whole 600,000 into fiscal year 13 for revenue recognition, because it's all about accrual and revenue. So they're going back and forth. The fact that things have to happen for those other payments, because it has to be a year after the completion and da. So they're going back and forth, and we're tweaking. They're deciding whether they're going to take it literally or pull it in. So if they do, it'll make the fiscal year 13 look a lot better. But it also will prompt a need to revise our fiscal year 14 budget, because that 400,000 is currently in the current year's budget. Did everybody understand what I just said?
That's fine.
So, they're in the final stages. They are working hard. I told them that I get at least 2 emails every day of clarity, so they're getting close to it. When I have the final numbers, then I will let you all know what changes that they made and issue. And my plan is also, the paper I already have been on hold in space to publish for the public that final report October 31st. And the local suburban life paper, and also upload it onto the village website for your viewing. So even though it says the 24th on here, Don't look forward to the 31st, because I put it out for. The second thing, the annual rollover bond, what will be in the paper on Wednesday, is actually the announcement of the binding hearing, our intent to issue a bond. We will be holding that binding hearing at 7 o'clock prior to the November 4th meeting. So please make note if you want to either come and testify in or hear the testimony as it relates to that bond issuance. The next meeting, November 4th, you should be here at 7 o'clock instead of the regular meeting starts at 7:30, but the binding hearing will be at 7 o'clock. And lastly, what sort of related to the first thing, the final audit report. I am in possession of the draft audit report, which I've shared those results with the trustees. The auditors are in their final reviews. When they actually sign off and give us the official audit report, I will upload it both on the village website, and more importantly, I will upload it on, not more importantly, equally as importantly, and legally bound by the county, I will upload it to Cook County's website that we have to do before October 31st, 2014. And that completes my report. I know it's sort of wordy, but sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Questions or comments from members of the board? Trustee Moreno?
No, I have none.
Trustee Moore?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
Yeah, just a couple of things, Mr. Baptist. First of all, I just wanted to point out to everyone, in case you didn't know, that the towing expenses are fully reimbursable by those, we're always on the same page. By those guilty of whatever the towing procedure was. You say $7,000 in towing fees? Okay, so that should all be reimbursable.
Actually, we make more money than what we actually cost.
Good thing. Okay. Can you expound on the $4,000 in insurance and miscellaneous reimbursements? What was that for? Was that for a specific accident or something?
Well, probably can tell you a little bit. Let me see what I printed out. God, you putting me on the spot.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay. Oh, I printed out the year-to-date. I didn't print out the actual month.
Okay.
But I can tell you that one of them was property damage. And the other one was building fee violation, what they get reimbursement back where they make somebody pay for something, you know, like aborting up. None of it was workers' comp this month. I do recall that, because we're maxing out on those who we have workers' comp for. That we, you know, they over the year, so we're out of that. So I know the two major ones, it was, gosh, fire, what is that?
With the electrical wire.
Thank you. One of your vehicles. That was like $1,700. You are putting me on the spot. I got the year-to-date numbers here. I don't have the.
I didn't need the exact.
I can tell you though. One of them was the fire, and it was something else, and then one of them was the building department collected on fees that I guess we closed for. We did something for them, and you made them pay us back. I tell you that because I have all of that. I mean, we could drill down. I just don't have it on me. Sorry.
Okay,
Didn't bring
that's
it.
good.
You like asking questions, ain't you, Careful. Let me sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's what we're here for. Lastly, the $77,000 in legal expenses, I'm very concerned about. You said these were some lingering legal expenses?
Some what?
Do any of those have to do with the election and all?
Yes. And I should apologize because you saying that just rung the bell. You asked me the last time, and I answered all the questions. I write down all y'all stuff, and then, you know, I send y'all these responses. I never did get back to you with the breakdown of what legal expenses are. Please forgive me. I will make sure that I do that.
We know you're busy.
Tomorrow.
We know you're busy. We'll follow up on that.
You did ask me to do that the last time, and I'm sorry. I sent y'all, these like 4 things, and I did 3 of them, and that was the one I didn't do. So thanks for calling me out, but I will do it. I'll do it for you tomorrow.
Trustee Abraham always calls me and asks me, did you hear from Jen? And I always call her and ask her, did you hear from Jen?
Thank you both for calling me out, but look, I'll take care of it tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Thomas?
No question.
Trustee Johnson? No. And Trustee Abraham?
Yeah, just one comment. No, Jan does a good job, and it's with her expertise and her background, and her, experience in financial management. I think she served the village well, and, she does get back to us in a timely manner. She does provide necessary information that we do request, and her financial opinion is valued here, and we as trustees do take it under consideration, so we do appreciate what her and, Tom Flynn does as a budget officer, so again, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to add other than I know you've got a lot of things going on in your office. I see you on a daily basis. And I know another project that you're currently working on is related to city and village policies and stuff. So thank you for what you're doing. Kevin had already asked the question that I was going to ask anyway, just to make sure that everyone knows that all those expenses are not flat-out expenses. A lot of those are reimbursable expenses. In some cases, it's escrow being paid back. In other cases, it's situations where we would get money from a grant for one thing or something else. So all of those expenses are not necessarily, quote-unquote, just us spending money for something.
That's the reason why we're in a surplus situation.
Absolutely. In a surplus situation, because the towing situation is our administrative tolls, we charge one fee, but we pay out a significantly less amount for it. And thank you, Jen, for letting everyone know that the accountants or the auditors are being audited by their own partners.
They really are. But everything has to be done by the 31st,
So they're going to get it done.
Look out on the website shortly thereafter, because they have to finish everything by the 31st, so they'll make us be a default, they know.
Thank you.
They working hard on it.
That's it. Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Next village officer, fire department, Chief Gardner.
Evening, Mayor, Village Board.
Good evening. You're not going to read all this stuff, are you?
All of it? I just got
I
some.
know one. Send me the bullet points. You got it now.
I'm going to give you the bullet points right now. During the past month, we responded to 160 emergency calls. Of those calls, 5 of them were box alarm fires. For our contract performance, we went to 2 fire alarms, 17 ambulance responses at the Loyola campus and outpatient center, for a total of 19 and 191 for the year. Loyola Fitness Center, 1 ambulance response for a total of 12 for the year. Hines VA Hospital, 13 ambulance responses for a total of 97 for the year. And JJ Madden, 2 fire responses for a total of 27.
Thank you.
Our Fire Prevention Bureau performed 67 inspections, 6 home inspections, and 118 violations were cited in those inspections. Training, as usual, makes up a lot of what we do. We completed 155 hours of training on fire and EMS subjects. We ran a fire extinguisher training class for Chase Products over on Gardner Road. We worked with Hillside ESDA on using our tower for some evacuation procedures. We went to Elmhurst for the Touch a Truck event with our Humvee. We've been doing public education classes, 911 classes over at Lindop and Roosevelt schools with the kids. We completed a CPR class for our dispatchers here over on the 911 center. We went to various 9/11 ceremonies last month, and mainly in North Riverside and Stone Park. We had firefighters Munson Baskowski participated in a rapid resource training exercise with Mavis. We also, the Deputy Chief and myself, attended a legislative breakfast with Chris Welch and other representatives and senators from all over the state of Illinois. It was very productive. We had firefighter Baskowski attended a 40-hour railroad tank car safety class that was in Pueblo, Colorado. That was entirely paid for by the Canadian Pacific Railroad. So that, Canadian National, I should say. So that was a free of charge class they paid for the whole thing for him. For our billing information, we collected $8,784.91 from PBS. We billed out $9,000 for Loyola, $12,100 for Hines, and another for a total of $21,100 for the month of August. We received $24,382.50 from those three contracts. We are having, our next CPR class is Saturday, November 9th at 9 a.m. It is free to anyone that attends. So if you know someone that's looking for a CPR class, please have a call the station to register. I did speak with the vendor that we're getting our new fire engine from just this past week, and they moved our delivery date up. They're looking beginning of January now. It should be completed right before Christmas, but with the holidays, it should arrive sometime the first 2 weeks of January. So that's good news. It's about almost 60 days ahead of schedule right now. So that's good. And then I would like to just announce, Loyola Hospital, I just received this today, as far as one of our ambulance calls that our guys took care of. And the reason I'm bringing this up is due to the LISO program and us attaining one of the 12-lead defibrillators that we got for free, which is about a $35,000 piece of equipment. It helped save the life already. This gentleman, 42-year-old male, was diagnosed in the field with that piece of equipment as having 100% heart, one of his major arteries in his heart was blocked. That piece of equipment automatically sends this information to Loyola before our guys even get there. They were ready for him and got him into the cath lab within 20 minutes after our arrival, which again is huge to eliminate any further damage to the heart. So I just wanted to make note of that this equipment and things that we are purchasing or receiving for free do definitely make a difference. So my heads up, there was firefighter monks and one of our brand new firemen, Tom Flannery, who just started 2 weeks ago. Actually, we're on that call, so paying dividends already. And then one last thing, we did receive our training and the equipment for Care Track. This was a project that we've been working on. Mayor Jones brought to my attention. One of our residents was looking for a system. Her brother has Alzheimer's and sometimes wanders off. Proviso Township provided us with equipment where we can locate them if they were to get lost. There's 4 towns in our area, Broadview, Hillside, Westchester, and Melrose, that have this equipment now. We did receive training on it. So it's called Care Track. So we are in possession. We did get the training 2 weeks ago on it. So we're up and running with that as well. If you have anybody that's interested, a special needs person or someone with debilitating illness such as Alzheimer's, this service is available to you if you call Proviso Township at 708-449-4300. So if you know of anybody, there is some small fees attached to it. I'm not sure exactly what they are, but I know they're very minimal for the equipment that individual would need to wear for them. But I know it's very small. I want to say it's like $4 a month or something like that. But we would have the ability to track them down if they wander off. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief Gardner. Appreciate you. Questions or comments from the members of the board? Trustee Marino?
I'm just curious, the Care Track, does that use like an embedded chip?
It's telemetry. Yeah, they wear a wristband that they need to replace like every 6 months or so for the battery. But yeah, it was a telemetry radio. It works better than the GPS like you have on your phone, because GPS can get blocked, if you're in a basement or something. Telemetry will go through that. So it pinpoints it down to inches. So.
Thank you. That's all.
Trustee Moore?
No.
Trustee McGrill?
Yeah, a couple of things, Chief. This has certainly been a historic year for Broadview. To no small part, all of the accomplishments that your department has been involved with the new fire truck purchase, certainly the new ambulance that we just received, and then today, the new fireman. And that's not to exclude Tom Flannery from replacement of the missing person. But I just got to take my hat off to you and the fire and police commissioners for all that you all do to help keep it Broadview moving in the correct direction. And it's all evidence that we're moving in the right direction as a village.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McGrill. Trustee Turner?
I want to say thank you for having me for dinner last Friday. I had dinner with the firemen last Friday. They cooked.
Hey, I was in the best places, like I said.
That's true.
They provided them, I provided the dessert at a church firehouse, and we talked, it was very nice and relaxing. Next time it's gonna be movie night.
All right, they said they enjoyed it, so anytime any of you wish to come by, doors always open, you know that.
Trustee Benjamin?
Anytime you want. Thanks.
Trustee Abraham? Hey, listen, I'm just proud of you guys, new defibrillators, new ambulance, new fire engine, it's just something else, a new Hummer.
Yeah.
So, having said that, we've come a long way from the layoffs in 2006, we've got a long way to go, and I'm just proud of what you're doing. Thank you, we thank the commissioners for what they do, and let's just keep moving forward.
Keep pushing.
All right. Thank you, Chief Gardner.
Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Next, Village Officer Report, Police Department, Chief Tegera.
Chief Tegera's not here. Commander Costa? I want to trust it. I don't know.
Good evening.
The chief left the report with me to spend tonight, and I'm trying to cover everything you want to cover. The Broadview Police Department was awarded a federal COPS grant to hire a sworn police officer. A second grant was also received to purchase or replace some of our bulletproof vests. A public safety committee meeting was held to discuss public safety and traffic concerns throughout the village.
Slow down. Take a breath. Slow down. I'm going to get out early. People want to know what you're saying.
2 new public safety documents were created in order to augment police and community relations. A police service evaluation form as well as a crime prevention notice was soon be used by our police officers. The Broadview Police Department purchased 6 AR-15 rifles for patrol usage at a cost of $5,799.94. The purchase was made utilizing asset seizure funds, which are those funds seized from drug centers. The command staff, the chief's office, redefined the role of the detective bureau, focusing on proactive versus reactive responses to crime, with the following augmentations and enhancements: increased planned operations, utilization of informants, undercover work, surveillance, and long-term case development. In the month of September, the crime index went down to 30 from the previous year of 39 in 2012. The arrests for the month of September were 56, up 2 from the previous month of 54. Citation comparison, current month of last is 565 citations were issued versus 471 prior. And the operations summary is, during the month of September 2013, members of the Broadview Police Department responded to 2,108 calls as compared to 2,239 calls in August of 2013. 7 individuals were fingerprinted for volunteer purposes at the local school. 2 parties were processed as sex for violent offenders residing in Broadview. 29 cases were assigned to the Detective Bureau. 2 were cleared upon investigation, with 2 arrests being made, resulting in a 6.9% solvability factor for the month. An additional 23 prior cases assigned were cleared, resulting in a yearly solvability factor of 92.98%. Community outreach officer stood by while the local business conducted an open house and a radio station event. Monthly neighborhood watch meeting was conducted. Citizen meeting conducted with members of the Beat 1 and the police command staff. Next meeting is to be announced in the future. I think that's August 3rd. I believe those are all the highlights that he has. The trustees and the mayor have a packet with the shot spotter and all the spirit chase crime or whatever.
Thank you, Mr. Costa. Hang on one second. Question for Mr. Costa.
Yes, do you have a date and location for the Harvester meeting?
I just know that's the next one that's going to be determined by the chief and Sergeant Costa.
Okay.
I know they're looking for a location for it.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Trustee Moore? No. Trustee McGuire?
Quick question. On the crime watch map, we have plotted various items such as the green dots and the yellow dots with the mask inside. What do the green dots mean and what do the yellow masks mean? There's no key to really say exactly what the difference is. That would be on like page...
You look at the theft reports?
Yeah, theft reports.
Oh, okay, yellow's current. Green is past.
Okay, so that's just...
So the yellow would be the last 30 days, probably.
Very good, thank you.
Trustee Turner?
No comment.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Good thing you're the sidekick, is you right?
Next to me.
Trustee Abraham?
Yes, I do. We have an update. Remember we had the issues with those kids or whoever was breaking into the cars like in Europe. They'd all been pretty much squelched or...
One out of two.
One out of two. But we haven't had any further incidents in any of the areas. Okay. Thank you.
I only got one comment, you guys are doing a great job, things are moving right along. I just wish you had brought one of the new rifles so they could see how lightweight they are. I thought it was a toy gun, so, looked like a BB gun. The new one? Yeah, 15? Yeah, it was just real light, it was good. But thank you for the report, very nicely done. Have a good afternoon. Mr. Clerk?
Okay, next village officer report, Public Works, Matt Ames, MFA Construction Inc.
On behalf of Matt Ames, he's not here tonight. I'm going to speak to
By the way, Ames had some oral surgery. He's got a suture still in his mouth, so. Yeah.
So I'll speak to a couple of items in my report later. Thank you.
Mr. Clerk?
Okay, next item, 4, communications. We have no communications for this meeting. Item number 7, old business. A, consideration of an ordinance authorizing and approving a development agreement by and between the Village of Broadview and Beckley LLC Series 9, 1617 Roosevelt for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
I would entertain a motion to table items A, B, and C. And they are all related to the first item. And the reason that I'm asking you all to table it is because we haven't heard back from Beckley. Beckley had a scheduled meeting with the attorneys this week, and it didn't happen, so we don't have a completed contract for you guys to take a look at. So if I can get a motion to table A, B, and C, we can move forward.
Motion to table until next board meeting.
Second.
Okay, probably motion by trustee McGreer, probably second by trustee Turner. All in favor of the table?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, those agenda items will be tabled until the next board meeting. Mr. Clerk?
Next item on the agenda, consideration of an ordinance authorizing and approving the execution of a utility cost audit agreement by and between the Village of Broadview and AM Audit for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion to approve by trustee McGreer and a second by trustee Turner. This particular agenda item is relative to the review of outstanding or invoices for the Village of Broadview from utilities and things of that nature. With the consideration, and I'd like to have an addendum to the motion, that there's going to be a consideration that there will be certain aspects of what the A&M audit does that in-house staff may be able to address. And given their direction to the attorneys, we would like to get the contract crafted to reflect the fact that village personnel will be addressing part of what A&M audit does. So that the low-lying fruit can probably be addressed by our financial staff in-house. And if in fact we're going to go forward with this, I would suggest that we make that necessary correction to the contract and have the attorneys crafted with A&M.
So as we discussed before, I will amend my motion based on the mayor's comments and our discussion from last meeting.
Mr. Attorney, you want to weigh in on that?
Yes, we would like to be able to negotiate the contract because we identified several items that village staff can more appropriately deal with
So moved.
We negotiate with AM Audit. AM Audit goes out and they basically find money, and then whatever they find, they charge you a fee over a number. It's additional revenue. Basically, they find money, and then if they find you money, they take a part of the department. We've identified different areas where the village itself can go out and find that money itself without having to pay the fee if it's found.
So you want to negotiate with them?
Well, I mean, you were responding to the attorney, we'll get to that. But let the attorney finish his presentation. Go
So
ahead.
what we would do is we would negotiate with AM Audit to pull out some of the services that they would provide, and then village staff would do those services, thereby eliminating the contract and not having to pay for that amount of money because we can do it easily ourselves.
Okay, questions or comments from the members of the board for the attorney? Because I've been in close contact with them on this AMI issue for a while. Trustee Brown Marino.
Which of the services is it that you want to pull out? Which ones are the ones that we would be doing in-house?
We're in the process of analyzing the situation, seeing which services can be pulled out. For example, there was an issue with regard to a cable tax that we looked into. Ultimately, we would be paid the full amount in that category, but it was something that we could easily check, or village staff could easily check, and if there had been money there, we would have had to pay a portion of it to AM. So we're in the process of identifying what those different categories are. When we have a list, we'll try to pull those out of the contract and have an audit go after those fees or those taxes or fees or additional revenue which are out of the reach of the village staff.
Now, is this round of comments only to address what the attorney just said, or what are we doing?
Well, we're only addressing the actual motion on the floor and what the attorney is responding to. I will make a note to everyone that I have talked to the finance director about some of her concerns as relates to the AM audit issue and the low-lying fruit, and get some clarification on some of the fees they will be charging for some things that we know are coming. We just haven't received them yet because they're slow to pay and things of that nature. Jan, if you want to comment on it.
I guess if my one request is he asking for legal authority to negotiate, which put the caveat with finance department input.
Absolutely.
Right now, I don't have to.
Absolutely.
Well, I haven't had it. So
you're going to have first crack at it, Ms. Baptist, because she raised a couple of questions as recently as today.
Of course, it would be absolutely integral to identifying those categories.
Right. Anything else, Trustee Maria, as relates to item D?
Yes. First of all, once again, I want to point out, for the record of this evening, back in November of 2011, the board, essentially the same board with the change of dropping Trustee Hargrid and adding Trustee Turner. Other than that, the same board heard presentations and looked at material from AM Audit and from another company, Azavar. And after examining both of them, decided that Azavar was the superior company in terms of product, service, and fees. They also charge less. Over this past weekend, we had the Illinois Municipal League Conference, and Azavar had a booth in the vendor area. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Perry from Azavar, and his version of what happened with the contract negotiations is different than what we were told here. I'm not trying to get back into the he said, she said back and forth, but it does appear that there may have been a breakdown in communications. I know from my experience, it's funny, I had met Mr. Perry and got to know a little bit about Azavar at the 2011 Illinois Municipal League Conference. And at the time, he said that he had already met our finance director, Jan Baptiste, was communicating with her, and I backed off. This is not somebody that I have any kind of relationship with, personally, professionally, what have you, and hadn't spoken with him about this latest attempt to go...
Ms. Marino,
This is about...
The topic that you're going at has nothing to do with the motion that's before the board right now.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
It does not. The issue...
Mr. Scarlato, it was so pleasant not having you here the last couple of meetings. You are the only attorney who routinely jumps on anything I try to say.
You know what?
Now, what I am discussing...
Excuse me, hold on one second. Without you guys getting into a whole lot of rhetoric and debate, suffice it to say that your position is that we have made an agreement with Azobar approximately a year or so more ago, which was brought up the last time the audit issue came up. This issue got tabled by Trustee Benton, I believe. Correct. Because she needed more information or wanted to get some clarity on the situation.
Right.
And so your point has been made to this board already. I don't think that there's anything that you're going to say to this board that they haven't already heard.
Well, as a matter of fact, yes, I am.
Well, then would you kind of get to that point, because you're regurgitating the same thing you said last time right now?
I'd be happy to if Mr. Scarlato would allow me to continue.
I think he's trying to get you to the point, get to the meat of it.
Now, after I'd first spoken with Mr. Perry on Thursday when I saw him, he contacted Mr. Finaro, and I spoke with Mr. Finaro this afternoon. The two of them were in the process of discussing the contract with Azovar and the changes. This is not, pardon me?
A year after they were approved and they didn't respond.
It's almost 2 years,
Well, 2 years.
since the board had approved this.
Go ahead.
And that's why I'm saying, there are two different versions of what happened with the negotiations. Now, incidentally, Mr. Perry is here this evening, in the back of the room, if you'd wave your hand, in case anyone actually has any questions for him or would like to take the time to discuss this with him.
Unfortunately, point of order, Mr. Perry is not on tonight's agenda.
I didn't say that. However,
there will be no questions and no Q&A with Mr. Perry in this case. You got a motion on the floor.
President Jones,
to be addressed.
President Jones, President Jones, I have the floor. I have not.
You're invoking.
I have not. I have not yielded the floor to either of you, and it is not at all unusual for us.
Outside of the motion that's on the floor.
It is not at all unusual for us to ask if there's anyone in the audience pertaining to an agenda item.
Only if we're asking for a presentation.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Sometimes there are questions.
Yeah, if they were named in the motion, this is about AM audit. You didn't ask if anybody from AM audit.
This is about an audit service.
This is about a motion on AM audit.
About whether or not to hire...
This is between the Village of Broadview.
This is a motion about whether or not to enter into a contract with AM Audit for audit services.
Okay, it has nothing to do with that.
You know, Mr. President Jones, it is so clear that you are trying to shove this down our throats.
We're not trying to shove anything down anybody's throat. There's a motion on the floor, and Azobar is not part of the motion. There's nothing in this motion, nothing on tonight's agenda that is relative to Azobar. Issues related to Azobar came up 2 years ago. Azobar has been MIA for 2 years. In front of us tonight is A&M Audit.
Well, I would also like to ask, when we're talking about delaying a contract with the AM Audit until we can negotiate for our staff to do certain things, we have been, the idea of a utility audit has been raised in the Village of Broadview for 2 years. I don't know why our staff wasn't able to address some of these things before, but this brings me to my other point. There was a flyer by an unnamed company that does a lot of audit work that alerts us that we need to do certain aspects of this, an audit, prior to December 31st or lose still another year of revenue. Now, we're dragging our feet. It's clear that you want AM Audit, and it's clear from my experience that the board will do what you want. So that's probably what's going to happen, but delaying this is only going to cost our village more money.
Yeah, and Azabar cost us 2 years, so now what?
No, Azavar didn't cost us 2
Okay,
years.
Well, let's move on. Get to the point.
Attorney Finaro dragging his feet on this
Well, I've got the email.
is what, well,
Go ahead.
I take exception to the fact that you are taking this individual from Asbar's word, who you've met twice by your own admission, over the word of your village attorney, who has negotiated hundreds of deals for the village and is acting in the village's best interest. The fact of the matter is that I worked on this deal too, and Asbar was not present, did not communicate with us for over 2 years. Now, granted, if there were failures of communication on our part, did Asbar not have the obligation to follow up and see what was going on? In fact, the only reason Asbar has even appeared tonight or any other time is because you spoke to him at that meeting.
Thursday.
All right.
Thursday.
Probably
As recently as Thursday. Azabar wouldn't even be here today if not for you invoking them Thursday.
no. No, Azavar was the company selected when the board had an opportunity to weigh out what the companies had to
We
offer.
did not come to
Now,
terms.
at
We
the-
did not come to terms and
Back-
have been incommunicado for almost 2 years.
No, after we had, after there was nothing going on with Azavar, I had contacted Mr. Perry, this is back in early 2012, to ask what was going on, and he told me about his various attempts to contact the village attorney's office as well as your office.
The motion on the floor right now.
I think that okay, bottom line, I think the village is making a big mistake by going with Am Audit. They don't do as complete a service as we could receive from another company.
And how do you know that?
Because I took the time to compare what the different companies do. For example,
so that means we won't
well,
get as
for
good a
example, when we had the presentation, when we had the, I'm answering your question. When we had the presentation from Am Audit
Presentation.
in 2011, I specifically asked them whether or not they do any type of an audit or review of sales tax. No, this is about the Am Audit service.
What is before?
Would you please stop interrupting me?
I have, point of order, I have to move this meeting along. You are making comments that do not regard what is before you at this moment. What is before you is consideration of ordinance to appoint Am Audit.
And I am explaining,
It has nothing to do with prior-
I'm not talking about Azavar right now. I am explaining, when you asked about the different services, for an example, I had asked Am Audit, when they gave us the presentation in 2011, whether they do any type of audit or review regarding sales tax. And they said, no, they don't. There are, well,
Okay, so
yeah, whatever you say.
Trustee McGrill.
So that's among the types of things, plus they're going to be charging us more money, but as long as you get your friend in there, I guess that's what's important.
And not your friend, right?
He is not my friend. He's not my friend.
And your statement is not even appropriate for tonight's meeting. There's a motion on the floor relative to A&M Audit.
How could the truth be,
entering into
how
an
could the
agreement
truth be
between us.
relevant?
Trustee Morris?
You know what? I'm gonna say this, and it is definitely real discouraging to sit here meeting after meeting and go through this. You know, for one, we already know that you did bring this guy up in here. You could say that. Ain't nothing wrong with you saying that you went up there.
And
you
I
got
would.
okay, so you brought him in here today.
Yes.
And then to say that we, the rest of us, don't have our own minds, we can't think, we just going with Mayor Jones say, you know, that is totally crazy. Because if I think that something needs to be done, I'm not gonna go with anybody, not even you. And then three, you know, whoever we bring in this village, if we hire them, we can fire you. We don't have to keep people. Not nobody. And my problem is every single thing that you have brought against this mayor, this board, everybody, none of it has stuck. None of it. It ain't did nothing but cost us a lot of money, time. It's 9 o'clock. You've been talking about somebody that you went, I don't even know this guy. But if he came up here and put his name on something and said he want to talk to us, we here 2 times a month. Let's stop doing this. This the mayor of the village of Broadview. These people elected him. They elected you to be a trustee, but I'm sure it was not to go at him and the rest of us. I value each one of their opinions. So please, if you doing something, just put your name in it. Don't say that we're just gonna do whatever he said. We're gonna do whatever's right. And if it ain't right, we're gonna change it. Thank you.
Trustee McGrath?
What is it?
Trustee Turner?
What trustee McGree and what he said.
Trustee Benson?
Wow, I actually have a comment. I completely agree with Trustee Morris. Completely. However, let's get back to item number D. I would love to vote on this motion tonight. Would love to vote on whether or not, yes or no, we're going to have a audit company here in the village of Broadview. But I do have a question. I'm scared to ask it after all of that, but I'm asking it anyway. So, do we need, so I want to make sure we're doing this right as a board, or I want to make sure I'm doing it right as a trustee for the residents. Do we need some type of ordinance saying that we're not going to, because we've done this before, not use Azabar so that we can just cut that out and not hear about that anymore and just kind of finish up with Azabar on a in writing type of deal so that we can now move forward? Because, I mean, I don't know how we can, so that we don't have to talk about this anymore.
You know,
What is the end point?
I'm not an attorney, but I can give you the basic answer of it.
Okay.
When we made the decision to go with Azabar, it was contingent upon us coming to a contractual agreement with Azabar. And the village attorney and myself were authorized to negotiate that agreement, and it didn't happen.
So because we have no in writing agreement that automatically shields it.
Yeah, similar to the way we did the water line issues. We had to come to an agreement on a contract with Azabar, and it didn't happen. We talked to A&M Audit. A&M Audit has been calling for a while, and they knew that the village had already given the business to Azabar. The problem is we had problems with communicating with them and coming to an agreement. There was no contractual agreement in place. Thus, A&M Audit was brought back to the table because we had potentially lost 2 years' worth of unfound revenue. And A&M Audit is amenable to us taking a look at all the services that they offer, identifying those services that the village can do themselves, and they will withdraw them from their contract, and we'll move forward with whatever's left.
Okay. And so then my question to that is,
And Mr. Attorney can answer the rest. Do we need an ordinance for that?
You're 100% right, Mayor. There was no what they call meeting of the minds. We were not able, although we were agreeable to enter into a contract with them, we could not come to terms, so there was no contract.
so they have no recourse against us. Okay. Just want to make sure. Now, as far as AM Audit's contract, what you're going to do is just negotiate it, take out certain stuff, and we'll be okay as far as the money goes with that.
With consultation with Director of Finance, Jan Baptist.
And we're going to make an amended motion to include Jan Baptist?
So Jan will be part of the negotiating team.
Okay.
Trustee Abrams?
Yes, I have a comment as well as a few questions regarding what my fellow trustees had said, that we do have our own mind up here. Again, residents, I'm a lifelong resident. You know, I was born here, I'm raising my daughter here. I'm going to do what's right, okay? I don't know how long Trustee Brown Moreno's lived here, but it hasn't been her whole entire life. She didn't work in this community, she didn't go to school in this community. I'm an educated woman, I'm a professional. Okay, so I think I could think on my own, and I'm a grown woman, okay? I'm married, I have a family, I can make decisions. Nobody up here is gonna tell me what to say, what to do, or what to think. I pray to God every day that I make the right decisions for this village. And I respect my fellow trustees, from Morris to McGreer to Turner to Benson here, that we are doing the right thing for this village, because we do live here. We do have a vested interest by owning a home, raising our children here. Again, I don't know her background. I don't care to know her background. Because every time we see, there's always an innuendo. It's somebody's friend. We're doing shady stuff, okay? We're always being told what to do. Nobody tells me what to do, not even my husband, okay? I run the house. So, you know, women, come on now, women, there's gonna be a president one day, all right? So I'm just saying, I understand.
I had to also apply the same rule to you. We're in our field of where we should be.
But I was just a little bit upset, but on my comments to AM audit, and again, and I know what trustee Benson was getting to, if there was a contractual agreement, you know, I just want to make sure there's no ties to them. And then as well as speaking to, I spoke to my finance department chair, Jan Baptist, about AM audit and having a say-so. So I'm glad that we're going to amend the motion to include her, because there is things with the staff. I understand they're limited in their time and what they can and can't do, and I know there's going to be sharing of info. I just want to make sure that they're doing it separate than what she can do, and then the cost.
Right. We should only incur costs for those things that they do and nothing that our staff is doing. However, in anything that anybody can be doing, there's certain information that will be required of staff here anyway.
Right, so
There's
you have to
gonna
provide something,
There's going to be some things that Ms. Baptist is going to still have to provide,
Okay.
whoever's going to be doing some of these audits. Because they're going to need documentation, information, village documentation and information. So
But like late fees and stuff that we would normally get.
we're going to get those anyway, and that was part of what Jan was talking about.
Okay, I just want to make sure there's certain, you know how the state moves when they pay us. Okay, so this is going to be, they're going to be researching additional outside of what her realm is, basically.
Right.
Okay.
I have a question, but I want her to answer since it's her time. Okay. When you're negotiating, can we make sure that we don't negotiate anything higher since we're taking services away from them?
We would never negotiate.
Okay, because they may ask,
You haven't said negotiations with us.
wait, they may ask to increase whatever the dollar figure is because we're taking away work.
Yeah.
You can best
And I've
believe
seen that before, it's not like it's foreign,
You've never been in negotiations with us.
not for you all, because it's always during the day.
The ruthless.
But I have, okay, all right, well, we don't want to increase them.
Right, they'll have a list of services that they're going to do separate from what our staff is going to do, Tom or Jan or whatever they designate. Okay.
All right, that's all I got, just don't want to see any increases.
Yeah.
Is that it? Well, I'll say this to everybody in the room. I was involved in the beginning of this whole process, and chronologically, A&M audit came in. It came in a couple of years ago before the IML conference with what they wanted to do. One of the trustees talked to another company at the IML conference and came back with a counter proposal. The proposal, curiously, was significantly lower than the original A&M audit proposal. Unfortunately, we did not come, we agreed to use them, and then we did not come to a contractual agreement with them, and we had difficulty having discussions with them over the last 2 years. As it stands right now, we potentially have lost possibly 2 years' worth of lost revenue because of the inactivity in this particular case. A&M was gracious enough to come back and say, hey, listen, we're still interested in the business, and we can, our contract is negotiable. Whatever you want to talk about, we're willing to hear it, and just, give us an opportunity. We brought back A&M audit, and then after bringing back A&M audit, one of the trustees took it upon themselves to go run down to Hazard and talk to those guys this past week, and now Hazard back at the table some 2 years later. So that's where we are today. I just believe that we need to move forward on this because we can keep going back and forth, and there's nothing in the room that says that even if we pursued with Azabar today, that we would ever get a contract negotiated with them because it hasn't happened for 2 years. So I don't see that as an open-ended road or a possibility at this point. To the point that, and I said this in the last board meeting, to the point that Trustee Marino made that this guy's my friend. Yeah, I know him, but I knew him as the principal owner of Pandolfi Topolsky Weiss, and that was an accounting and auditing firm located in Westchester. And that's Jim Pandolfi, who does not own the company A&M Audit. He's merely a sales rep for them or marketing guy. He goes out and he finds municipalities for them to take a look at. And that's the only reason that there's any relationship with me and A&M Audit. Just so that everyone knows for clarity purposes. So I have nothing to hide. And like Trustee Abraham, I've been in Broadview since 1962, went to grammar school here. And I think that the record of this board since I've been in office speaks for itself. We've been financially in the black for the last couple of years. We've been fiscally sound. We have not made any decisions on this board that are in contrary or contradiction to doing anything positive for the village of Broadview. Everything that I do and everything that I have put in front of this village board is for the betterment of the community, betterment of the town, both fiscally, personally, and safety and health and all of that above. And there's no hidden agenda with me at all. I only got involved with this particular job to try to do the right thing and try to bring some closure to some of the missteps that were taken in the past. And I'm not here to relive the past, and I'm not here to go back to the past. And right now, we're 2 years out from an agreement with Azabar. Didn't happen. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. A&M Audit's been patient. I think they should be given the same opportunity and be given the same 2 years to come to an agreement too. For that matter, you know, at the end of the day, if somebody awarded me a contract and said that, hey, we're going to use your company, Mr. Jones, to do A, B, C, D, E, if they awarded me the contract, I'm going to be doing my due diligence and I'd be tearing down the door to talk to those people to try to get everything possible done to get started on this program, because I'm in the business of trying to make money and keep my company viable. But as the mayor of this town, I was not contacted by these guys at all for 2 years. I personally was not contacted at all. And I've got the copies of the emails from the attorneys to them where they were not responded to. And that's unfortunate. And that's why I'm at it. So that being said, I'll entertain a roll call on this particular motion. It was seconded already. Yeah, we wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't seconded. It was motion and second by turn. So, Mr. Clerk, a vote in the positive is a vote to approve A&M Audit. A no vote is to oppose A&M Audit and not approve us entering into an agreement with A&M Audit. With the amendments as directed by Finance Director Baptist, myself, and the village attorney.
Trustee Abraham? Yes. Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Turner?
Yes.
Trustee McGreer?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
No.
And that motion carries 5-1.
Next agenda item. Consideration of an ordinance authorizing and approving the execution of the municipal franchise and tax audit agreement by and between the Village of Broadview and A&M Audit for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, it's been probably motion by Trustee McGreer and probably second by Trustee Abraham. This is actually the ordinance to execute the franchise and tax agreement between us and A&M Audit. Relative to the last item, the agenda item that we talked about, I'm pretty sure that almost all the same comments will be the same, but I'm going to ask for them anyway, just for purposes of this meeting. Trustee Marino, do you have any comments or questions that relate to this?
No, I've said my piece.
Okay, Trustee Moore?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
None.
Trustee Turner?
No.
Trustee Benson?
No.
Trustee Abraham? None. Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Abraham?
Yes.
Trustee Benson?
Yes.
Trustee Turner?
Yes.
Trustee McGreer?
Yes.
Trustee Morris?
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino?
No.
And that motion carries 5-1.
Number 8, new business. Item A, consideration of an ordinance amending certain sections of the Chapter 1, quote, Fire Department, end quote, of Title 5, quote, Fire Prevention and Protection, end quote, to reflect the changes in ambulance service fees for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Morris and second by Trustee Turner. Chief, you want to tell them about this? I think this came up in our budget meeting and some changes that we were making to just get us on par with like communities and neighboring communities as relates to our fees.
Yes, sir. You guys should have, we included with your paperwork, just the scale and we did a survey of some of the surrounding towns, our rates haven't not increased in 15 years.
15 years, yeah.
So right now, we're at the complete bottom end of the scale as far as what we charge for ambulance service fees. So with these increases, this will get us up back into the middle of the road. Just an example, our town right next door to us, Westchester, presently charges $2,587.50. For that same call, we presently only charge $700.
Wow.
So this will get us back up to where we need to be, which will also help fund these additional direct.
Wow.
Thanks, Chief Dunn. You know, I just, if you don't, if you all don't have the rate sheet, it's in your package?
Yes.
Everybody seen it? Okay. So what, just so that everyone knows, what we're doing is just, you can have a seat, Chief Dunn, is adjusting our billing rates to reflect current day values. Because we've got surrounding communities, and we were at the bottom of everybody, and it's been 15 years since we raised our ambulance fees and things of that nature. So if you got any questions, you got Chief Gardner here to respond to them, starting with Trustee Marino.
Well, I'd like to thank Chief Gartner for the work that you did to the analysis and suggestions in order to increase the revenue and therefore be able to bring on more people. I do want to point out, because you hadn't said this, you said it before, but that the village policy to accept the insurance payment or Medicare payment, what have you, for village residents who need an ambulance service without going into collections to try and collect money from our residents is still in place. Correct. So that hasn't changed with the new rates. The only other thing I would say is that you gave an excellent presentation at the budget hearing. And it really went a long way to explaining the changes that you were recommending and how this helps pay for the firefighters that we've added. So I wish that were available for the public. It still is not available, but it would be very helpful for people to understand what these changes are and why. And that's it.
Trustee Moore.
Well, you know, I never try to say now, we just keep it moving along, because we'll be thanking the chief and the building department and the police officer forever, because we know that they do a great job in here always. So, you know.
And Trustee McGreer.
This is, again, long overdue, Chief, and again, we want to thank you for your excellent presentation and bringing this need to light during the budget meeting. Thanks again.
Trustee Turner.
Keep up the good work, Chief.
Trustee Benson.
Thank you.
And Trustee Abraham.
Quick comment, I just want to thank you for obviously getting us in line with our neighbors. And then the other question would be, would we be reviewing that on a yearly or 3 years or 5 years?
At least biannually.
Okay, just to keep us on track. Okay. That's it.
Because Medicare and them are also
Fluctuating. Okay.
If our numbers, and I brought this up in the presentation, if our call volume stays the same, which I've averaged it out, it should stay the same. Just by these increases, it should bring in an extra $150,000.
And then Will says, if the other villages raise their rates, how often they do it, we'll kind of match them or stay in line. Okay.
I have nothing to add. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, the motion carries for the rates, the new rate schedule.
Item B, consideration of an ordinance amending section 2, quote, application for license or certificate, end quote, of chapter 1, quote, general license provisions, end quote, of title 3, quote, business and license regulations to establish a temporary business license for the village of Broadview, county of Cook, state of Illinois.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by McGreer, second by Morris. Everybody ran the second that one. This was brought about because we had some issues where we had businesses coming to Village and we've had numerous businesses come to town, and because they can't get in front of the board with their official business license, we wanted to create a temporary business license to allow them to actually operate their business while in a holding pattern to get in front of the board for official approval of their official business license. It'll be a minimum fee, probably $50. It'll be going through the building commissioner's office, and what it will do is it will allow Company A to move into the village of Broadview and actually start operating business. It's going to restrict some of the things that they do to the extent that we're going to put them on notice that if you spend any money on your property or your location, or whatever the case may be, you'll ultimately be responsible for, because this temporary license is no guarantee of a permanent license at any point in time. But we realize that time is money, you're a business, we don't want to inhibit your business, we want you to be able to make money and conduct your business. So in order to allow them to do that, we're going to create this temporary license not to exceed 60 days, I think, Dave? 60 days in order for them to get everything else done and in front of the board for proper approval of their permanent business license within the village of Broadview that's renewable annually every year. You know, there's certain requirements and certain stipulations. Mr. Attorney?
Yes, as you said, there are going to be stringent requirements.
That's what I was getting to.
Okay.
Right, there's stringent requirements including certificates of occupancy, tax ID numbers, you know, certain requirements that they must have in order to be an operating business within the state of Illinois anyway.
And they have to submit a full application, business license application with all.
It's all detailed in their package, though, right?
And they have to abide by all village codes.
All village codes, the whole nine yards. So you've got to have an official package on file, an application on file to be presented to the board, but since we only meet twice a month, and sometimes there's delays in us getting in front of, them getting in front of the board, this will allow them to actually operate in the interim. Questions or comments for Mr. Upshaw or the attorney himself as relates to this, starting with trustee Marino?
Just want to be clear, the $50 fee is in addition to the other licensing fees, correct?
Correct. Yes, yes.
Okay. And, no, that's it. That's all. That was my only question.
Well, I'm gonna say this, to me, that just shows me that Dave is actually who he say he is. You know, you can't come up in here, pop up a tent and say you finna start working. You know, these people, they had to come in here and actually get us to change this. So obviously that was working when he was telling them that you're not gonna be able to run your business here without the proper license. So I can appreciate that.
Thank you. Trustee McGriff?
The last thing we want to do is run away viable businesses from coming to our community to, you know, assist our community with our tax base, et cetera, et cetera. This is one of many ordinances that we've done, passed over the last few years to move Broadview again in the right direction, and we couldn't have done this soon enough. I appreciate this.
Trustee Turner?
I had some questions that they were asked, they were answered, because I had email with me, Phil. But one question he didn't answer, is this a non-refundable? Is that stated on the paper, the $50?
It's non-refundable. There's an application that's going to go along with it, and it's not a requirement. A business doesn't have to get this license. They can apply for it if they want to get up and running in the 2 weeks, you know, that it takes to get before the board. So it's like an ability to start working a little earlier.
Like a temporary license.
Well, I just want to be, I guess, clear that if they change their mind, or if they say, go, that they don't think they're getting $50 back.
No, because Dave has to, we have to use staff time in order to review the application, in order to make sure the business complies.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Benson?
So this is my department, so I wanted to say that when I first became a trustee, I did put together a little packet of things I think needed to be adjusted or changed, dealing with business licenses, and the application was one of the things that I thought needed to be changed, but because we renewed and we had so much on our plate, we just couldn't get to it. So my comment regarding this ordinance is it's well overdue. And I'm glad that we are now looking at the business license procedure and how it's being done, because I did put something in writing to everyone regarding this. So I'm putting that out there. But I do have a few questions that I actually just thought of while sitting here, so I wasn't able to email them. Dave's questions. Dave emailed, and he had a few concerns. My question is, were those concerns resolved?
Yes.
Right. My second question is, if they get this and they pay the $50 and say the board can't vote on their stuff within the 60 days that it's valid, can they then apply for another?
The temporary license is only available for 60 days.
So they cannot apply for another temporary license to grant them another 60 days?
Not the way the statute is written, right?
Okay. My next question is, when
And you
we-
wouldn't want that, trustee?
No, I just asked the question because I
You want
didn't
them
see
to
that
get-
it was addressed.
There are the board has 4 board meetings. So
Just in case for some reason it's not passed, like let's just say I table something tonight, then I table it again. We can easily hit
Well,
60 days.
In order to be tabling a business license, in most cases, it would be because something's missing from the application.
Absolutely.
But if everything is compliant, they've got 60 days to be compliant. So that's the issue. And that's why we started at 30 days and we agreed upon 60.
I agree with 60. I'm just saying, just in case for some reason, we don't have a quorum. You never know.
If they're serious about
there's an issue, and it's the village's responsibility that we're not doing what we're supposed to do as a whole body, then they will be given consideration. Because
They will be
it's
given
not,
consideration.
it's not right.
But it's not them. This is the consideration.
Yeah, this is, I mean, if you don't have a quorum, there's nothing they can do about it. If they don't have their paperwork together for a board meeting, there's nothing they or I can do about it.
We also don't want to get into a situation where they just keep getting temporary licenses.
I just asked the question because I didn't see that it was addressed in what I just read.
I think David said
Okay, so we good on that? All right, and so then my last question is when you grant the temporary business, the temporary license, which you'll have discretion to do, are we going to be making sure at least that some places might not be habitable? That it's habitable? Yeah, before they get that temporary business license. Okay. That wasn't that bad.
Trustee Abraham?
Thank you.
No, I'm glad you answered if they can get another temporary license, and as well as there was going to be some sort of an inspection of the property. So my questions are answered.
Yeah, including certificate of occupancy.
Yeah. that was it.
My response to all of that is, this is the result of the Village of Broadview's building department actively addressing businesses that are up and operating and we don't know about. It's actively identifying construction going on without permits and things like that. And we have found businesses in Broadview operating without licenses, without even having submitted applications for licenses and things of that nature. And in this particular case, this business came in a town and got some poor advice from the landlord. The landlord didn't advise them on the village process as it relates to licensing. They got up and running ignorantly, and ultimately, they got shut down by the village. So in order to keep that from happening and allow these businesses to come in and us not running away from town, we created this process to put in a temporary license. So, and that's all I got to say. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, that motion carries unanimously across the board for the new temporary license.
Next item, C, consideration to approve the treasurer's report for fiscal year ending April 30th, 2013 for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
I'll entertain a motion to table this particular agenda item based on the comments from the village finance director earlier.
Yes, I make a motion to table.
I said,
Motion tabled by trustee Abraham, second by trustee McGreer. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, we're going to be tabling the treasurer's report because we're waiting on some finality from the auditors. Mr. Clerk?
D, item D, consideration to approve a request to hire a sworn officer due to the retirement of Sergeant Miller for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by trustee McGreer and second by trustee Morris, trustee Morris and second by trustee Turner to approve the request to hire a sworn officer. Questions or comments from members of the board? Trustee Brown Marino?
No, I have none.
Trustee Morris?
No.
Trustee McGreer?
No questions.
Trustee Turner?
No, sir.
Trustee Benson?
No.
And trustee Abraham?
No.
Okay, well, I got some. In this particular case, is this the officer that's going to be funded by the grant?
No.
No.
So that officer is in the academy right now.
the officer that's in the academy right now. This particular hire, is this going to be done before the end of the calendar year, before the end of the fiscal year? When are we projecting to bring this officer on board?
I don't have that exact date, but I'm sure it's going to be as soon as possible.
Okay, I'm going to make a note to the board that I do not believe that we're going to actually enact this particular agenda item until after the new year. I don't think this is going to happen before the end of this calendar year.
I thought it said somewhere in January.
That's next year.
Oh, you said this year.
It's this calendar year, correct.
I'm out of this year already.
Okay, so I just want everyone to know that this is not happening this week, this month. It's going to be happening after the holidays, okay? This is not a boots on the ground until after the holidays, people. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, that motion carries to hire the officer to replace Sergeant Miller.
Item E, consideration to approve the business license of World Transport for the Village of Broadview, County of Cook, State of Illinois.
The motion is tabled by trustee Benson, second by trustee Abraham. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing no opposition, this one will be tabled to the next board meeting, which is going to be November 4th.
Item number 9, application for the authority to expend funds, $8,959.57. Office max.
Motion to, are we gonna do these individually?
Do you need to have, is anyone?
One of them,
Hold on.
yeah.
What you got?
One of them is just the plumbing, and then the other one, two of them is the cement, from Hackey Cement.
Well,
We gotta do each one?
well, no, we may not. It depends on, do I have a board member? Well, I'm gonna start with trustee Balmerino before you guys go on down the list. Does anyone have a problem with us lumping all three of these in one motion? Is there any one particular bill that you would like to have it separated out for discussion? Trustee Marino?
I don't have a problem either way you want to do it.
Okay,
It would
sure.
seem that the office max should be separate, but
Yeah, well-
however the board wants to do it, I'm fine with.
Yeah, well, trustee Moore?
No.
Trustee McGee, all together. Trustee Turner? Trustee Benson?
If it's two of them, it's just the cement and the other one is the jet.
Trustee Abraham? Okay, I'll entertain the motion then. Give me a motion.
Make a motion to approve all three of these bills together.
Second.
Motion by McGee, second by Morris to approve the expenditures in a total sum of $8,959.57. And that includes office max, Haggis, McGreer and Morris. McGreer and Morris. With Haggis Cement in two separate instances. You want to give us a report on who's got office max?
I got it.
What you got?
3.
Well, I'm just going to, somebody got to read it, that's what it is.
One of them is for 3 HP LaserJet Pro printers at $269 a piece, which is a total of $809.97.
And this was made by the finance department from Director Jan Baptist. Any questions or comments for Ms. Baptist on the procurement?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, go on to Hackey Cement.
Okay, Hackey Cement is the company that we use for cement, for the curb repair, concrete for the curb repair, through Public Works, bollard replacement, et cetera, et cetera. We have one invoice in the amount of $5,375. The other invoice is for $2,775.
Okay, that's for the cul-de-sacs.
One was for the cul-de-sacs,
And
right?
one was for an accident where somebody hit one and knocked the ballast loose, if I'm not mistaken.
Concrete curb and bollard
And
replacement.
the ballast replacement where the clown ran into the...
Somebody ran into the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, somebody ran into the... Somebody ran into...
Which one?
Yeah. I want to say the one over there by Dave's house, around the corner from Dave's. Yeah, they ran into it.
This is girl running.
They was running from Broadview's Finest.
Y'all stop that.
No, but, and that's reimbursable. We got one of them going to be reimbursed. Any other questions or comments from the members of the board? Trustee Marino?
I want to understand, is this, especially the first one, the 5375, It says placement of concrete curb barriers
That's,
to transition from forced turn island to full closure.
that's I'll explain that to you. When they made the hammerhead cul-de-sacs, they neglected to completely enclose the turnaround area. So people were actually driving through the grass and over the curb.
Right.
So they ended up going back out there and putting in a new curb on all of them. So that's probably the more expensive one that you're looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, because they went and put in an extra curb line on each and every cul-de-sac to keep people from just driving between the hammerheads.
Okay, then my other question is, since the company that got the billboard on Baton and 17th was supposed to be paying for the cul-de-sacs, will they be reimbursing us for these charges?
I didn't even have that discussion, to be honest with you, Trustee Marino. I doubt it because it was not in the original quote. The original quote was the cul-de-sacs, the way they were designed. We just, when we actually watched what happened and as it evolved, we realized that it was a planned failure, that the design of the cul-de-sac was not prohibiting people from just driving through people's front yards and through our parkways.
And who was it that did the design for the cul-de-sacs?
That was with the village engineer, Gomez, and what was the company that you had out there?
NYS Construction is one who built that.
It's built.
Okay.
It was not an issue that was contemplated as being a problem when we designed it.
Yeah.
Driving over sidewalks and curbs and go around.
Yeah, it was an unforeseen situation.
A couple of them had trees, so we didn't.
Couple of hit trees, yeah, the whole nine, yeah.
Okay, those are my only questions.
Trustee Moore? No. Trustee McGriff? No. Trustee Turner? No. Trustee Benson? No. And Trustee Abraham? Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Abraham.
Yes.
Trustee Benson.
Yes.
Trustee Turner. Trustee McGrier.
Yes.
Trustee Moore.
Yes.
Trustee Brown Marino.
Yes.
Okay, and that motion carries unanimously to pay those purchase orders.
Number 10, committee reports. Water, drainage, and health, Trustee Brown Marino.
Well, while it is nice to know that there was a reason for it this time, this is the third month in a row where we have no report from our Public Works Department. He has steadfastly refused to follow his contract and provide the village with reports, as every other department does, written reports. And absent that, the board appeared to be satisfied with just oral reports, and now for 3 months we have none of that. I find this completely unacceptable and would urge the board to take some action on this. This is not the job of a department head. So, the other thing I wanted to share with everyone is that on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, October 23rd, the group that was formerly known as the Citizens United in Forest Park, now they're called VOX in their zip code, will be having a discussion about the proposed changes to the Eisenhower and Blue Line. It will be at St. Bernadette, I have it here. St. Bernardine Church in Forest Park, and it starts at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. They will have representatives there from IDOT as well as a group out of Oak Park that has been very vocal, not only vocal, but very active in it's a group called the Citizens for Appropriate Transportation, a group out of Oak Park that has some alternate plans or thoughts about the Blue Line expansion, Blue Line and Eisenhower expansion. So again, that's St. Bernardine School, Farron Hall is what it's called, and it's this Wednesday at 7 p.m. It should be, I've been to other of their events, and they do a very good job, both with presentation and with audience participation. So if you haven't had a chance to attend any of these, this might be the last chance. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Brown.
Next report, fire, police, and civil service, Trustee Morris.
Hey, good evening. You know, it's just a great thing what the fire department doing, what the police department doing. You just can't say enough for these guys. They just rolling right along doing what they do. But it just seems like You know, you just can't get away from Judy Brown Marino, man. She always, you know, she say that we satisfied with what Mr. Ames is doing. How you know that? You don't know that. Just because we don't speak every time you speak on, just because your enemies are not my enemies. Okay, I'm done. It's just, yeah. You know, I talk to the chiefs all the time, both of them. And I mean, like I said, you just can't say enough of these guys. And then to be able to go from, you know, I could see somebody laying in the ambulance now like, hey, let Broadview come get me, you know? $700 to $2,500, you know, that's a big deal right there. That's a big deal right there. So, you know, I definitely applaud you on going after that and then going after these extra firefighters so we can respond to the calls if we get them. You know, that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Morris.
Street, sidewalks, and alleys, trustee Greer.
Wow, man.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Mayor, Board, residents. First off, I'm just going to say, without going into a big long thing about it, I'm in contact with Director Ames sometimes twice, 3 times a day on various topics or subjects that we deal with on an ongoing basis. I'm a regular fixture at Public Works. A lot of you who come and pick up your leaf bags see me annually. Others that have other issues hear from me as a follow-up after you've spoken to Director Ames or one of his assistants down at Public Works. So with that being said, I just want to report on some of the things that we're in the middle of doing and in the process of getting done. We passed out the leaf bags. We still have some leaf bags remaining. If you have not picked up your leaf bags, you can do so down at Public Works, 2734 South 9th Avenue. Public Works will be, will pick up the leaf bags until the first snowfall. We're also preparing for the snow with the shovels and the equipment. We talked earlier about the reimbursement of insurance incidents from a specific accident, having to do with the cul-de-sac crash or accident. Also wanted to report on the grant, the CMAP grant that we recently applied for and were denied. So I'm just going to read a real small portion of this letter that we received the other day. Actually, the mayor received this, and basically it states, we received nearly, this is from Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, which is CMAP. We received nearly 70 project proposals from municipalities, counties, interjurisdictional groups, and non-governmental organizations, and the application process was quite competitive. We regret to inform you that we will not be able to commit resources to your project request at this time. The project that we requested was along 17th Avenue. It was a corridor study. Oh, battery's dying. That was very valuable in their eyes, but since the grant was so competitive, they were not able to give us the grant as opposed to some of the other projects that were out there. So we're going to continue to push for grants and monies that Broadview can get to do projects that are viable for this community. With that being said, I'm looking forward to some of the help that our state rep can give us, and that's one of the things that we have on our wish list. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee McGrath. Mr. Clerk?
Building is public property, trustee Turner.
No report.
Thank you, Trustee Tyler. Mr. Clerk?
Business committee, trustee Benson.
Good evening, everybody. I just had one compliment actually for our building department and business license division. It's a card. I'll read it because it's very short. It says, I would like to thank the Broadview building inspection team. Greg came out and worked his best till things happen. The effort and the respect you guys have shown is amazing and a blessing. Thank you very much. Can I say your name? From Ms. Dominique and children at 1000 West Roosevelt Road. So compliment to the building department's business license division. They're doing a good job. They receive compliments all the time. He normally reports them, but this lady actually sent one in with a nice, beautiful card. So kudos to the building department's business license division.
Thank you, trustee Benson.
Next report, Finance Committee, trustee Abraham.
Good evening, residents. Definitely met with some of our various department, heads this past week, and either through email or by phone call or in person. I spoke with various, again, different department heads regarding, what's going on in our finances, staying within our budget, and moving the village forward. With that being said, I did meet with Donna Barber, our village collector. She did want me to remind everyone that the water bills can be paid on the internet through our village e-pay program. The accepted credit cards are MasterCard, American Express, Discover, and Debit. And our website address would be IllinoisPay.com. Or you can actually go on our village website and access the link of e-pay if you want to pay your water bill online. So that was another alternative we want to, also give out to the residents with the technology. She also wanted to remind everyone that residents can purchase the yard waste and garbage stickers at the Village Hall. Obviously, the Public Works was gracious enough to give the residents 10 bags for free, but the yard waste sticker is $2 and the garbage sticker is $1.90. So we just wanted to make sure that that is out there as well for that information. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, trustee Abraham.
Next item on the agenda, item 11, village clerk. We have no report. Item number 12, village president, Sherman Jones.
Okay, we do have an executive session for tonight, so we will be here for a little while. But I just want to point out a couple of things real quickly. And my first order of business is to apologize to you all for the fact that some of our trustees tend to extend our board meetings by getting off of their committee reports and getting onto soap operas for other reasons, and that's unfortunate, and it should not happen. So they need to stick to the rules of engagement, the rules of the meeting, and stick to their reports for the most part. And I would caution all the trustees as it relates to that. Secondly, as it relates to Ms. Redmond, as you see, we tabled the equity issue today because we had some miscommunications and didn't get a contract done. I do not even know if we got the tape for the actual zoning board meeting for equity. I'll find out if we do, and we'll get that put on the website before the week is out, okay? So, that's all I got to say on that one. On another note, I have, anyone, you might want to take down this phone number, anybody that knows anyone that may need health care. And that number is 708-818-0150. There's a website, www.healthcoverage4u.org. That's www.healthcoverage4u.org. And what this is an organization called the Community Nurse Health Center, and they sent me a letter, they dated it October 10th. At any rate, Get Covered Illinois, and what they do is they tell everybody about the Affordable Health Care Act, and if you got questions and you're not sure about it, they will help educate you on it. And what I will do is I will take a copy of this, I will have it posted and make copies of it and put it out in the lobby for your perusal. I'd like to also make note of our police department, and I don't know if you guys have talked to the chief today, he's out of town, but I would like to let everyone in the room know that our police department was recognized by the International Association of Police Chiefs for outstanding efforts in combating drugs, guns, and gangs vis-a-vis the Operation Triangle operation that we're doing right now. That award will probably be displayed in the window of the police department when they get back. He sent me an email picture of it, I have time to print it out, Moving right along, I would like to make a note to the village board on a couple of different things. Jan Baptist is one of them. Jan does an excellent job. She puts together the treasurer's report in the next board meeting, and if Jan would be so gracious to accept it, I'd like to appoint Jan as the treasurer in addition to a finance director's job because she does the treasurer's work anyway and has been doing the treasurer's work for a few years now. So just wanted to put that on the minds of the members of the board sitting here as relates to Ms. Baptist, and hopefully she'll accept the the offer for being the village treasurer. As relates to the Blue Line extension that they're going to be discussing in Forest Park, that's an extension that's been discussed quite a bit and quite exhaustively. Unfortunately, they don't have finances, and right now they're looking at 2040 or beyond before they extend the Blue Line. They're more concerned about fixing their current infrastructure as it relates right now. What would it? You work for CTA.
I just worked there.
I'm going to let me keep going on the rest of these items. Public Works Director, unfortunately, one of the trustees decided they wanted to single out one of the department heads, and as I said earlier tonight, that department head was not here because of oral surgery with sutures still in his mouth. As it relates to the comment on the building department, Commissioner Upshaw's department, 1000 Roosevelt is a problematic location, and I'd like to extend my congratulations to those guys for going out there and taking a look around and getting our local police involved with what's going on at 1000 Roosevelt. As it relates to CMAP and the fact that there were 70 proposals, ours was just one of 70, and of those proposals that were approved, almost all of them have lobbyists. Almost everybody that got approved for funding has lobbyists down in Springfield. We need a lobbyist. And so my point is that we do need a lobbyist. If in fact we can come procure one and there's a way to give one, hopefully we can do that. We do know that there's a lobbyist that works for both Bellwood, Westchester, and I want to say Hillside. I think he works for all three of them. And because he's in our area, he'd probably be much more reasonable than other lobbyists. And I'm going to ask him to provide us with a proposal for his services. Another note, Pace Bus. A while back, we got an approval to get a Pace Bus at the cost of about $100 a month. We had to set up a program, come up with a route for the bus. It's currently in the works. It's in the attorney's office. The contracts are being worked on as we speak. That should be in front of the board in the next board meeting. And last but not least, I'd like to, well, not last, I've got two more things. Mr. Robert Larson, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Mr. Robert Larson. Mr. Robert Larson was in my office today. Robert Larson is the owner of Canine Specialties, and what he does is he trains dogs. But more importantly, he's known because he is the gentleman that has found a body, 3 bodies in the last 3 months, including the kid out of Maplewood he found in Salt Creek and Addison Creek down south of Broadview here. Currently, Mr. Larson is homeless, and he has no place to stay. He is down the street on Roosevelt Road in a hotel, and I'm going to ask the village board to sponsor him for 1 week with his stay down at the hotel. He's already got a commitment from one of the local churches to provide him with housing, but he can't get in until next week. So with the village's permission, or the board's permission, I'm sure that we'll probably get an invoice from them. I'd like to, just get a consensus that we can provide this guy with housing for a week. He's actually sort of like a hero. So I think it would just be the prudent thing to do for somebody. He came in here, he's got both the dogs with him. He was in his van, and he's gone out and found 3 bodies on his own dime, on his own money, used his own savings, and not got anything in return for it. So I'd like the board to extend the olive branch and pay for this guy's housing for at least a week. So, and then moving on, as you all know, it's kind of chilly in here. I've got a purchase order that was handed to me today for a coil for our heating unit. It's a $5,800 expenditure. I need a consensus from the board that we go on and get this repair done, get this coil placed in. This will be on the agenda 2 weeks from now. And that's all I got, everybody. And you'll have a good evening. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the regular board meeting and adjourn on into executive session for the purposes of discussing litigation and personnel. So moved.
Second.
Motion by McGuire, second by Abraham. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is suspended, going on to executive session. You got something for me to sign? Just 2 minutes. The rest I'll be right. Yes, you can. They're prepared. I've already told them that I'm Wednesday. I told them Wednesday around. Yeah. So he's got problems.
Right, you know, and I'll tell you, because I think it's a good thing.
The actual day that he found the key.
I saw it in the paper. He didn't have the dynamic.
I'm trying hard, man. Don't keep me hot about it. I'm freezing.
All right.
No, but yeah, and you know what? When I talk to you tomorrow, I'm gonna give you your name and let you know about paying.
Okay, all right.
You don't need to.
How you doing? When you get a chance, and we get,
Litigation about Chicago judges.
I would like to talk to you about the bond thing. What was, I mean, it was on the agenda that I saw today. Apparently, the agenda came on from October 7th, and then this meeting came up there today, the agenda. And that's the first time I've seen it. So I would like to sit down and tell what bonds we were talking